Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. Tonight I'm going to share with you guys everything that I am thinking about reading in the month of November. I cannot believe it is almost November. I feel like I just made a video saying I can't believe it's almost October. Fall, please don't go by too fast. It's my favorite time. Today I spent most of the day out and I really noticed a big change in the colors out there since we had like 5 days of rain and it's getting colder, and so it's just getting so pretty. All the leaves just beautiful. So I'm hoping in the next couple of days that I can take a walk down in this particular park. I want to take some videos and show you guys how pretty it is. So hopefully I can get down there before, you know, it gets really cold and everything falls down and blows away. So let's talk about what I'm planning on reading in November. There are several different reading events going on this month. I want to participate in most of the things that I have seen happening, but I am also kind of have this overarching goal for this month, and that is to get some stuff off of my TBR. One of the booktubers that I like to watch now and then, his name is Ollie. His channel is Criminolly, and he is hosting, along with some co-hosts, an event that he has done several years now, and that is the Read What You Own Challenge. He has several different tiers to this. I think the lowest is like to read 10 books, the highest is to read 100 books, and you basically pick your tier and then you do not purchase any books until you have read your tier's number of books from your own collection. I tried to do this last year and I failed in the first week. And that is because I love to go book shopping in the fall and winter. It is my favorite time of year for book browsing. And so I just wasn't gonna give that up, and yeah, totally bombed. So this year I am changing up the rules a little bit for myself, and I am going to pick the 25 book tier. And the way I'm changing it up is I can still buy books, I can still be given books, I can still acquire books in any way. However, I cannot dip into them until I have read my 25 from my TBR shelf. And so I'm just going to reserve this bottom part of my cart over here, and any books that I acquire once I decide to start the challenge, I'll just put on that bottom shelf, and then once I've hit my 25, those books can go into my TBR. Then I might even start it over again. I don't have as many books on my TBR as I have in the past. I have dwindled it down. I probably have 100 or less, and I have had a 200 book TBR for years and years and years. So I've already unhauled quite a bit. I did a big unhaul yesterday afternoon. And so anyway, I don't have that many, but I would still like to read through things that I picked up one time or another for a reason, right? And so Criminolly's challenge starts on November 5th, Guy Fawkes Day. I'm probably just going to start it on November 1st. I might even start it like tonight. But I think I'm going to go ahead and start November 1st, and then I will do it once, read 25 books before dipping into anything acquired. And then if it wasn't that big of a deal and it didn't like stress me out or whatever, then I will probably make it a recurring thing. But I think that'll be really nice. I have about 30 actually that I chose off of my shelves yesterday and set aside that I will choose from as I'm looking at, you know, reading these 25 books. All right, and then I have a couple of challenges that are my own challenges. The first is the Children's Classic Challenge that I've been doing all year. This month, it's The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. I have never read this. I've watched the shows, you know, but I've never read the books. And so I'm going to read through this. And if I like it, I'm probably going to put this series on my wish list and see if I can get that and read them all. I think we actually have them all in one place or another in the house, but I would like a set for myself. So that's my Children's Classic Challenge. If you guys want to read that with me, there is a Discord. You guys can see in the description box the link to my Discord, and the Children's Classic Discord chat isn't super active, but if someone wants to come on there and talk, I'm there. And then my other, yes, my 50 by 50 challenge. So I have this little journal here, and in it is a list of 50 books that I would like to read by the time I am 50. So I just turned 46 last Thursday, a week ago. And I haven't yet done anything. I've had this list for months, probably since, I don't know, the spring or something, in May. Yeah. So I made this list in May and I haven't touched it yet. So I really should probably get moving on that. So I picked out 2 books that I would like to at least start in November. This one, I'll just read the whole thing, but this is Far from the Madding Crowd by Thomas Hardy. I've never read anything by Thomas Hardy before, so that will be my first go. And then I am going to start the Sydney Psalter, but this will take me a few months to go through. What this is, Philip and Mary Sidney were a brother and sister who lived during the time of, like, Queen Elizabeth first. I think that Philip was part of her court, but they did have relatives in the court, if not. And anyway, they wrote the Psalms kind of in a lyric way, like they wrote them to music, which they were originally written to music, right? But in a way that rhymes in English in a lot of cases. And well, let me read you Psalm 23. You can kind of see how it goes. So Psalm 23, you know, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. So this is how it goes in the Sydney Psalter. Psalm 23. The Lord my shepherd is, and so can never I taste misery. He rests me in green pasture his, by waters still and sweet he guides my feet. He me revives, leads me the way, which righteousness doth take, for his name's sake. Yea, though I should through valleys stray, of death's dark shade, I will no whit fear ill. For thee, dear Lord, thou me besettest, thy rod and thy staff be to comfort me. Before me thou a table settest, even when foes' envious eye doth it espy. Thou oil'st my head, thou fillest my cup, nay, more, thou endless good shall give me food. To thee I say, ascended up, where thou, the Lord of all, dost hold thy hall. So you know, you can imagine them just kind of, they're sitting there plucking this instrument and singing these in English rhyme, right? I'm assuming that a lot of these rhymed in Hebrew when David, you know, and others wrote them out, but they made them to rhyme in English and to fit music in English. And I just think that's really cool. So I'm going to read like the psalm in the Bible version that I have, and then read this psalm in this Sydney Psalter. So that's just like it's a neat way to adapt the Bible to a way that fits English speakers and English singers, right? Before King James. Those 2 are from my 50 by 50, and hoping to, like I said, read the one and start the other this month. And then, yeah, I really need to make that part of my monthly goals if I'm going to finish those by 50. If I don't, I mean, fine, but it is a goal. I'd like to complete it, but I gotta start it first, right? And then I usually do the challenges over at Anne's channel, In Search of Wonder. She has 2 challenges. One is just a classics reading challenge. It has prompts and keywords and scavenger hunt, that kind of thing. And then one is the Jane Austen 250th birthday celebration. For that, she has kind of a calendar that each month everybody has a group read relating to or actually authored by Jane Austen. This month, the group read is Northanger Abbey, which I actually just did read. I think that was my Jane Austen July read, yeah. And so I don't really want to read that again this soon anyway. And so I'm going to skip that, but I am going to do the classics challenge. This month it is to read an essay. I actually have a surprising number of essay books on my TBR. So I think I picked out 5. The first one is something that I've put in TBR videos saying I'm going to read, and I just haven't yet. And that is this little essay by Florence Nightingale called Cassandra. It is published by the Feminist Press, and the blurb says, an angry outcry against the forced idleness of Victorian women. So we'll see how angry it really is, or if we are just drumming up some anger, but I am very interested to see what Florence Nightingale has to say about the forced idleness of Victorian women, because I think that that is an interesting concept, right? Because I think that that was a real deal, right? There was just a lot of sitting around and being prim and proper. I mean, you know, they made a big deal about riding bicycles or even exercise at all. For quite a while, women weren't really, you know, encouraged to do anything but sort of walk around. I don't know if it was allowed is probably too strong of a word, but, you know, encouraged, what the, you know, professionals would say is that they weren't encouraged to do too much strenuous work and labor and exercise. Activities that were encouraged for women were often idle activities. And so the fact that it's forced, I don't know about that, but highly encouraged, yeah, probably. So I'm gonna read through that. And then I've got this book, What is Art by Leo Tolstoy. And this is a pretty long essay. I mean, it's put into, you know, 150 or so pages. He just kind of talks about art in a philosophical way. Is it just for the elites? Is art just for those who can afford it or whose homes are proper enough to have art displayed in? He talks about how an artist has a responsibility towards spiritual things, kind of religion and science working in tandem. Just a lot of interesting thoughts that don't probably seem super Tolstoy-ish, at least, but he did write this later in life, and I think I remember about him having kind of a spiritual awakening there towards the end of his life. So I picked this up thinking that that would be an interesting read, and I've had it on my TBR for a few months now. Okay, so this next one, about a year and a half ago, I spoke at a conference and I met this girl, Jennifer Krieger, and she recently contacted me saying that she had put out this book and wanted to see if I would take a look at it. So it's called Press On Like Paul, and it talks about Paul's influence and encouragement for Christians. And so I don't know if I'll read the whole thing cover to cover, but I will definitely take a look at it. Some of these chapters have like commentary, like a recap at the end. I don't know if they all have questions. But yeah, I'll take a look at that and see. Then I have this collection of essays by Mary Oliver called Upstream. I have heard a lot about Mary Oliver, but if I've read her poetry or other works, I didn't, you know, realize I was reading something by her. But I thought that that looked interesting, and I want to see what she's all about, because I heard some people just talking her way up, and then I heard someone say, oh, Mary Oliver is not for me. So I don't really know. It's not that big a deal to me, but I thought I'd check it out. And then I found this book. This is by Stephen Jay Gould, and it is called Questioning the Millennium, A Rationalist's Guide to a Precisely Arbitrary Countdown. And it was published like right before Y2K. I guess it approaches the idea of the millennium from a spiritual point, maybe a biblical point. I don't really know much about this guy, Stephen Jay Gould. I've heard his name, but I don't know, you know, what his philosophies are or anything like that. I really just grabbed it because I thought it would be fun to read something that takes me back to 1999 when I was, how old was I? 19, I think. Barely 20. I had just turned 20 right before Y2K didn't happen. So those are the essays that I've chosen to look at. At least one of them I will read for the challenge, probably more than one. Then I also would like to finish up my bingo board for Chantel's autumn reading bingo. I printed this out at the beginning of September and then just didn't really think anything of it. In fact, I really actually didn't even look at all of the prompts. And I just spent September and October reading other things and figured if they fit, awesome. If they don't, I'll have to make up for it in November. I have got every one but 3. So I need to read 3 more books to finish off that bingo board. My 3 prompts are warm beverage, trees and leaves, and cozy. So for my trees and leaves, I can do the Mary Oliver book because trees and leaves on the cover. For the warm beverage, I've got Before Your Memory Fades by Toshikazu Kawaguchi. I read, what's the first one called? Before the Coffee Gets Cold. I read that sometime, maybe earlier this year or last year, and I liked it. So this is just another one in that series. The premise of this series is that there is this coffee shop in Tokyo, and when you go in and sit at this particular table, and the waitress comes up to pour your coffee, you can basically wish yourself back to any time in your history, any memory, any time in your past. And once she pours the coffee, you go back, like at least in your mind. I don't know if you do in your body. I don't think so, but you do in your mind. And you can relive this time. But you can only stay there until the coffee gets cold. And once the coffee gets cold, you have to come back. There's a little bit more to it, but that's the basic gist. It's a fun concept, and there are actually several in this series. I've just read that one, but I'd like to get them all. I read them and then I give them to my 16-year-old daughter, and she enjoys them too. I don't know why, but for a little while there, we were just on this like kick of Japanese novels that feature cats. There's the cat, and there's just something about them that are just super cozy. So this is the perfect time of year to read that. I might even start that tonight. We'll set that one aside. And then the third prompt that I need to finish up is cozy. So I'm going to read my 2 Allison Utley books, Little Gray Rabbit's Washing Day and Little Gray Rabbit's Birthday. I got these for my birthday from my friend in London. I talked about these in my birthday video, but I am excited to read these. I've never read Allison Utley, but I've heard good things, and these are just a real treasure. So those are going to be my cozy reads, and then I will have finished the bingo board for Chantel's challenge. And then lastly, the big challenge for November that I've participated in the last couple of years is Nonfiction November. The original host of that is no longer hosting officially, from what I understand, but so many people are doing it now, I think it's just going to be a permanent booktube thing. So several of the books I've already talked about qualify for Nonfiction November. I do have a few others pulled out here, so I thought I would share those with you guys as well. Obviously, I'm not going to get to every single one of these books, but they're fun. It's nice to have a big amount to choose from, right? So this is a book that I bought several years ago called Written in Bone, and it basically talks about all of the ways that like forensic scientists can look at our bones and learn so much about us. Archaeologists, anthropologists, other, investigators, crime investigators, they have all kinds of different techniques for discovering lots of stuff about us by looking at our bones. So this goes from the top of your head all the way to the bottom of your foot and talks about the different things regarding our skeletons and how they can be read, basically. And then I think that the author uses like actual true crime, stories to tell about these. So I thought that would be really interesting. It doesn't seem like something I would be into, but whenever I've read something similar to that, I've really been into it. So I'm gonna try it. This is a book that I really wanted, and then now I'm kind of over it, but I might read it anyway. This book is called Undistracted by Bob Goff, and it is a book that just it's a faith-based book that talks about getting off of social media and focusing on your real life, is what I am gathering from this, which I'm really trying to make a really big effort to do. And I kind of am doing pretty good with that. So I'm not so much feeling as desperate to read this book for, help on that, but I will still probably read it. And then I've picked out the Concord Quartet. We've got Bronson Alcott, Ralph Waldo Emerson, Nathaniel Hawthorne, and Henry David Thoreau. And they were all like friends, buddies, right? And lived in the same area at the same time and wrote. And they were deep thinkers, and they talked about their thinkings. Some of them were transcendentalists. Hawthorne, at least, was more of the romanticism crowd, but it just kind of talks about how these guys, it says, Alcott, Emerson, Hawthorne, Thoreau, and the friendship that freed the American mind. So just kind of talks about some of their philosophies and thinking. There are some like diary excerpts in here and photographs and different things. It's not a super long book, but I thought it would be really good to sort of get me ready for Nathanuary, which I host in January, and it's a reading event that celebrates Nathaniel Hawthorne, because I adore him and I adore his writings. So I thought that would be a good read. So if I don't get to that this month, then I will save it for a nonfiction read for January, but maybe I'll get to it. We'll see. And then I've had this book on my to be read, like, you know, urgent to be read for several months now. This is called The Medieval Housewife. It's pretty short, and it gives lots of, there's lots of, you know, illustrations and photos and things. It just talks about the life of a medieval housewife, and I thought that that would be interesting. This is kind of random, but that's how nonfiction is for me. Like, I don't have just one genre of nonfiction. I read anything. I mean, really anything. Well, okay, almost anything, but you know. And so, yeah, thus, we've got this book called 1,000 Years Over a Hot Stove, and it's a cookbook with lots of essays and commentaries and things in it as well. I read another book about cooking like this years ago. I can't remember what it's called now, but really enjoyed it. This one has photographs, recipes, photographs of old recipes, just the history of cooking, I guess. This one also has been on my kind of upfront TBR all summer long, Rooted by Leanda Lynn Hopes. It's a book about science and nature and, yeah, you know, just little essays, I guess I should add it to the essay section, about being in nature. So, yeah, I really need to get this one read. So that's why I'm doing this read your own, you know, read what you own challenge, because I've got books that I just pick up over and over and over again and put on my cart and then put them back, and then the next month I put them on my cart again. I just need to read them. This one is called Lost in Translation. I just got this for my birthday, and this book features words English doesn't have a translation for, okay? So like, for instance, this word, Gurfa. Gurfa is a German word, and it means the amount of water that can be held in one hand. So I have a Gurfa of water. Like, we don't have a word for that. What we would say is, this is the amount of water that can be held in one hand. And they would say, this is a Gurfa, I guess. So that's interesting. And so it's all kinds of words like that. So that it's kind of like a fun little coffee table type book, but I want to read through it. To add to the randomness, I have this little pamphlet that my friend sent me from Finland to talk about the area, the town or, you know, area of Finland that she lives. City, I think. Is it? I don't know how to say it in her language, but Tampere is what it looks like to me. And it's like, you know, a 10-page pamphlet with photos about her town. And I just want to read it to learn about my friend's town. So, you need to read that. This book is on the community of Montigny, which is very close to where I live. And I believe that it was a resort for a time in the early 20th century, looks like from the photos. And it has been torn down. I think it was flooded, actually. Torn down and flooded, probably both, to put in, like, to expand the lake or just to create Beaver Lake here in Northwest Arkansas. I'm not exactly sure, and that's why I need to read the book. I've got this book called The Tudor Reformation. This is that book I told you guys that I bought at Winchester Cathedral for my mom and then decided I wanted to read it first. So it's actually my mom's book that she's never seen. So I'm going to read it and send it to her. Which I should have just sent it to her and then she sent it back to read. But I don't know. I'm sorry. I have no explanation. I'm just guilty. And then lastly, what I've got on this cart is this book called The Diary of Mary Cooper, Life on a Long Island Farm from 1768 to 1773. I have no idea who Mary Cooper is, why this is significant, not a clue. It was put out by Oyster Bay Historical Society. Don't know where that is, don't know anything about this, have no idea how I came across this, but it was on my TBR. Well, I opened it up and I was looking, and the writing on it is so tiny. I need to get glasses. I need to get my prescription changed anyway, but that is so tiny. I don't know if I'm going to be able to read this book, but I will give it a try. And find out why this woman was significant. Does she do something on a national level? Is she just significant to this local area? Like, why do I have this book? And that is everything I've got on my nonfiction November TBR. The second rack of this rack of this cart, I've got probably like 12 fiction books that, together with everything I just showed you, make up that group of books that I chose to read before, to read for Ollie's Read What You Won't challenge. So that gives me 25 plus a few DNFs. And of course, if I don't want to do any of this, I will just bag it all and read what I want. But right now I'm in the mood to read a bunch of stuff and clear up some shelf space here. I want to expand my classics section here in my library. My section is getting pretty packed out, and I'm having to stack books on top of books, and I don't like to do that. Plus, I have a ton of my Bronte books are in a completely different part of my house, and that just is wigging me out. Like, I need all my books together in the same place. So if I ever get locked in this room forever, I will have all of my books together in one place. So I need to make some room for that. And so therefore I've got to read my TBR and open up these shelves. Guys, I hope you're having a good day. I hope you found that fun and inspiring. And I would love to hear about what your plans are for November reading. Do you like to set goals? Do you just read whatever you want? Have you made any plans? And if so, let me know. I hope you guys have a beautiful day. I will see you soon. Bye-bye.